Hi y'all, welcome back to the channel and to a video on mullein. And mullein has so many uses. You're going to be so excited to see the things that you can make. We're going to make some tea, some chest rub, and some ear drops and a tincture. So we're going to be making 4 different projects while we talk about the benefits of mullein. I'm so excited to do mullein. It's been growing out in my yard. You can see I have some hanging right here that I'm going to use the roots, and we're going to have lots of fun. So let's get right into it.
Know me, take the time to dig deep underneath this red heat. We could really meet.
We are going to be using Apothecary Monthly. This is their May 2022 box for mullein. And I am going to be reading some information out of this booklet, but there's a lot more information that I'm not reading. They've got stuff like to go with the soil pup and seeds on how to grow and cultivate the mullein, and all kinds of things in there that we won't be going through. But part of the booklet is a mullein tea that we're going to start off making, and that's 1 to 2 teaspoons dried mullein leaves or flowers and a cup of boiling water. And we're just going to steep it for 10 to 15 minutes and then filter it through a cheesecloth or coffee filter to strain out the plant's tiny hairs. There are some tiny hairs on here. Usually when you cook it, the tiny hairs aren't an issue for anyone, but straining it is a good idea, just so you know. So let's start out. I'm going to use the packet. I'm just going to do 1. This is a little bit bigger than a teaspoon. And we'll heat up some water. And I'll go ahead and make it in this cup, and then I'll strain it into this cup. I'm going to add some sugar. I probably should just use honey, but I'm going to use some sugar. Actually, I'll put it in the cup that I'm going to strain it to. I know, lots of sugar. I do have some other alternatives that I use a lot of the times, but I'm in need of a little sugar right now. Cut a little bit more cheesecloth. We'll never get it back into that bag. And we just need a little one. I always make it a little bit bigger because then you can use it for other projects. There we go. Haha, maybe I will get it back in this bag. This is a beautiful picture of mullein. And I'll put some pictures in during the video of me and the mullein that's growing around. You'll see it. It's really easy to identify. So looks like our tea is almost ready. Okay, and then we'll set a timer. 10 minutes, it says about a cup of water. I'm going to add a little bit more. And we will put it aside for a minute to let it steep. So I'm going to add some of the things that I learned about mullein with some pictures of mullein. But first I want to show you some that I have collected. You can see between this and this how it's green and then it's kind of continued to go yellow. This is actually a year old, and this is stuff that I picked up this year. So After about a year and it starts to yellow, I would probably get rid of this because you can tell that all the good nutrients and things, constituents that are in it, I'd rather use, as long as it's available, newer, greener leaves. But I wanted to show you. And I just tied them up with a string and then hung them up like this. Same thing with this. Kind of easy. I use a rubber band, and then I can just take that rubber band and hook it onto something for them to dry. So I did write a couple of notes that I learned from my naturopath course that I want to share with you. The energetics of a plant, you'll start to learn the different things, different vocabulary that we use, and you'll start to be able to place herbs into categories. And as we go along, I'll get a little bit more into how to use the energetics to learn like what plant might be used in substitution for another plant, because you have the one plant growing and you don't have the other. So the energetics of mullein, it's cooling, moistening, and the root is relaxing. The taste is sweet, salty, and slightly bitter, and the tissue states that it helps is irritation and atrophy. It is a 3rd degree herb, which means that it is a medicinal, non-food, non-toxic, usually short-term use herb. Because of its gentle nature, it is actually one of the herbs that's good to use with children. So the herb classifications, just so you know, when I said that that was a 3rd degree, 1st degree is a food, non-toxic, regular consumption like an onion or a mild pepper. 2nd degree classification would be medicinal food used in small quantities in food like garlic, hot peppers, or cinnamon. A 3rd degree herb would be a medicinal, not food, non-toxic, usually for short-term use, like golden seal, mullein, or echinacea. Now, mullein is a biannual plant, which means that the first year it just grows the flowerlet of leaves, and it stores all the energy in its roots and in its leaves during that first year. The 2nd year, it uses all that energy to shoot up the shoot that's really tall. The ones around my house are taller than I am. And so it uses that energy to put that shoot up and then to flower, and then it dies after that 2nd year. So if you're collecting the leaves to make things, you'll want to actually collect the leaves and the roots from a 1st year plant, because it will have more energy in the plant than if you get it on the 2nd year. And you can see from some of these bigger leaves that I got these from a 2nd year plant, although there are some 1st year plants with leaves that are almost that big. So you may end up with a little bit smaller leaves like this with that 1st year plant, but the constituents are going to be stronger in it than if I took it from a 2nd year plant. Every part of the mullein plant can be used. The roots can be used for lower back pain and toothaches, and you make a decoction with the roots, which I'm going to do with those roots right there. I've got them a little bit cleaned so you can see. I washed them off and they're just drying out a little bit, and I'm going to use those roots to make a decoction for lower back pain or a toothache. And I'm probably going to also make a tincture with it for lower back pain, because that would probably be, I think, the best modality of delivery for that would be in a tincture, because the alcohol in it with the constituents would probably really help with that lower back pain. If you're interested in the magical aspects of mullein, it is a female. Saturn is the planet, fire is, and deity is Jupiter. The powers are courage, protection, health, love, divination, and exorcism. It keeps wild animals away, and if you put it under your pillow, it's said that it will guard you against nightmares. In India, it's used against evil spirits and hung in the doors and windows and carried in sachets. At one time, the leaves and stems were used as wicks in the oil lamps, and it is said to invoke peace and mend relationships. So the parts used, the leaves are most commonly used for respiratory complaints. It is an expectorant, a lung tonic, a lymphatic, And it is also used sometimes for nicotine withdrawal. You can actually make cigarettes with it and smoke it in place of the cigarettes to try and get rid of a nicotine addiction. Now, obviously, I'm not going to recommend to anyone that they smoke anything because of some of the problems that we've learned about, but traditionally with the Native Americans and a lot of different places, they would either smoke it or they would put it in on something and burn it in the room so that the smoke was getting to you to help with the respiratory. Because it has fuzzy little leaves, like I said, you will have to cook it, or if you cook it, the fuzzy goes away on the leaves and doesn't usually cause anyone irritation. But I've started to think of other plants like sage that are kind of fuzzy, and starting to think about little fuzzy plants helping with the lungs. It's said that if you have a dislocation, like a dislocated rib, that you can put the leaves on the dislocated rib area and that it will help with that. It's especially good for dry, hacking coughs and asthma, bronchitis, COPD, and emphysema. It does combine well with horehound and coltsfoot. Coltsfoot's another one that's actually found in a lot of European blends of cigarettes, and it helps with the lungs. You can use the leaves topically for painful injuries or to joints or bones. And it will help, it's said to help reduce the swelling and pain. So that's all just the leaves. And on top of it, the leaves are called cowboy toilet paper because if you're out there and have no toilet paper, these leaves are actually really good to use in a time of need with no toilet paper. Now, the roots are an antispasmodic and especially good for the lower back. It will relieve nervous irritation, involuntary tics, twitches, muscle spasms, hacking coughs, convulsions, and cramps. The flowers, the properties of the flowers, it's an anodyne, which means it's specific for the ears and will relieve pain by calming the nerves. One recipe that you could use for good ear drops is olive oil, garlic, mullein, and St. John's wort. And let that sit for 2 to 3 weeks, and then you can strain it and use those drops in your ears. The seeds are a mild narcotic for fear and anxiety, but some people say that they're toxic. So if you're going to look at the seeds, please do your research on that and make sure that you're comfortable with using the seeds. Okay, so our tea's ready to strain. So I'm just going to put this in the cloth and strain it. Oh, last little bits of goodness. And there we go. Let me put this away. So let's see how it tastes here. Some of these teas don't taste the very best. You're doing them more for a medicinal. That's nice, actually. I did do probably a little bit more than a cup of water to make it a little bit weaker. But that's really good, and this would be good for any respiratory type problem. I actually really like that. I'm going to go ahead and start our Mullein infusion that we're going to make. I'm also going to do one with olive oil, garlic, mullein, and St. John's wort for the ears. So, because my ears are really sensitive, and so anything based in alcohol wouldn't be good. Some people will make that with alcohol, but I think it's better with an oil base so that when you put it in your ears, the oil will moisten and help with the ear infection. So I'm going to do two. I'm going to do one that they said, like they said, and we're just going to start this because it's going to sit in the crock pot for about 3 hours. And so I'm going to get some water in the crock pot and get that heating up. Okay, I think that should be enough. I like having quite a bit of water in there to cover a good amount of the jar and the oil. And so let's get that going. And I'm going to put it on the keep warm. The crock pots these days seem to go a lot hotter than what they used to. So you can do this the folk method, where you just put it in and let it sit for about 4 to 6 weeks, shaking it each time. And I think the folk method is a way to really empower your medicine, put your intentions into it while you're shaking. And I think it actually is the best way, but it's stronger when you do it that way. But because we're filming and for sake of time, we're going to go ahead and use the crock pot method. You can also use an Instapot and different things like that to make this, to make it work. So we are going to use our grapeseed oil. And I love that this box gives you everything you need to make at least one, if not a couple of the projects. Okay, so it says 4 ounces of grapeseed oil. So we're using 4 ounces of grapeseed oil. And then we're going to use what's in the Mullein jar. Come on out, Mullein. Okay. Got that all in there. I'm going to fill this back up with Mullein in just a second. Make sure all of it's in that oil. And you can use a mortar and pestle before you put it in here as well, if you wanted to do that. So then we're going to just drop that in here and let that, it's going to go for 3 hours. So I will set a timer, phone, because my timer doesn't go that high. Okay, 3 hours for that. And I'm going to go ahead and do the oil for the ears. So for it, again, we need some Mullein. And I'm going to put, you know, about 1/3 of each in here. That should be good. Let me see if I can fill this back up. I love having these little bottles in my apothecary. It's a perfect way to start with herbalism. I actually love this box. Okay, I'm not sure what I missed. Seems like the camera went off, and so I missed some of the taping, but I took the roots of this mullein plant, cut them off, cut them into smaller pieces so they'd all fit down in the alcohol, and now they are sitting in an alcohol that's 80 proof or higher to make a tincture with the roots for lower back pain. So that's going to go in a dark place for about a month. I like to use the moon cycle, and then it will be processed. That's our roots. I'm also going to do a tincture. I've got 3 bottles here. I'll do one so you can see a little bit better. Those bottles did not come in. I use extra bottles for the chest rub when it's done. Here is the tincture bottle they give you, but these bottles were mine. So I'm going to take some of the Mullein, and I'm going to do a Mullein tincture as well. So that'll be about all of my Mullein. I'll have to buy some more Mullein. Whoops. You don't spill it out all over the counter. That looks about good. I'll fill it up the rest of the way with alcohol. There is still a tiny bit of Mullein left, but not very much. We'll leave that in there. so they know to reorder. And you can reorder the herbs directly from Southern Seed Company, which is the company that puts this box out. So now we'll pour alcohol in this tincture. See, we got lots of projects going. Now, sometimes the alcohol on these lids will kind of rust and it will hurt the lid, so you can put some type of a wax paper or something over them if you want to. I kind of stopped doing that and just get rid of them by the time that the lids start to have a problem. So let's make a tag for this one. And I'm putting Respiratory on there because that's the main thing that I want to remember that the Mullein tincture for the leaves will do. There are other things as well. We looked at some of those things and we're going to read some in just a minute. So let me go put these into my tincture area. And then I'm going to show you what it's like when your tincture is done. I do have some of this yarrow tincture that I began, and so it's ready now to be strained and put into its tincture bottle. So, and this was from a video I put up a little bit ago, so we do have our yarrow tincture bottle here. I love that they have it because they have everything down here on the directions and stuff as well. I have an extra bottle here that I labeled because usually there's more than what you can put in one bottle. You do need to strain it, and I do have this little strainer in here, but unfortunately it is too big. It came with the set, and I might cut this little knob off, because if I cut the knob off, I could still put the paper, or put the, what am I thinking? The cheesecloth. That's what it is, the cheesecloth. But for now, I'll put the cheesecloth on here. Try and choose a different place that I didn't use for the other stuff. And we will start with this little bottle. Oh no, I'll have to find a smaller strainer. Let's see. Oh yay, that one works. Just pop this over here. And once your tincture is done, you are just going to pour it into this cheesecloth to strain it. I'm kind of watching to make sure that I don't fill this too much. There we go. Like I said, usually there's extras. Now it is good, I'm just going to leave these in here, but it is really good to get them out and squeeze them into the bottle if you can, because that's where the most potent medicine is. So if you can take them like this, and just go ahead and squeeze them and get everything out that you can from them, that's an extra step that you can do to get the more powerful medicine. Almost all of them out. Oops. Runaway yarrow. And again, just kind of wrap them up. And squeeze them. To get all that extra up. That's going to be the most powerful medicine there is in it. Okay, so that is our tincture now. So now these are all ready to go down on the shelf. And anytime I need yarrow, it's right there. It says right on it, 20 to 30 drops up to 3 times a day. Whoa, that one I overfilled. These are alcohol-based, so obviously they're never going to be my favorite. But again, just a few drops, and you've got the benefits of whatever the herb is in your tincture. So while we're waiting for our 3 hours on our oils before we can make our chest rub, I'm going to tell you a little bit about what they have in their Mullein book. Again, this is only one page. There's so much information in addition to the recipes and everything else in this book, and it's absolutely gorgeous. I mean, even the section on growing and harvesting mullein, and then the recipes on how to do everything we're making, the chest rub, the tincture, and the mullein tea. And the flowers are absolutely beautiful. They are a little bit hard to pick. That's why I didn't pick any for today's video, but that's a goal of mine next year, is to make some of the flowers, make it into an eardrop oil, because it's going to be even better than this eardrop oil I'm making with the leaf, because the constituents in the flower have the iodine, which is good for ears and will help with that. But mullein, known as common mullein or Verbascum Thapsus, is a medicinal plant readily found in roadsides, meadows, and pasture lands, and has been used to treat pulmonary problems, inflammatory diseases, asthma, spasmodic coughs, diarrhea, and migraine headaches. Although it has been used medicinally since ancient times throughout Europe and Asia, the popularity of common mullein has been increasing commercially for the past few years. Today, the dried leaves and flowers, capsules, alcohol extracts, and the flower oil of the plant can easily be found in health stores throughout the United States. The use of common mullein extracts in folk medicine has recently begun to be supported by an increasing number of research studies. To date, we've focused more on the overall health and wellness, but now we feel it's time to start focusing on more direct remedies. In this month's box, we want to create a remedy to help tackle common respiratory and ear issues, which influenced our decision to choose mullein. Due to the expectorant, helps expel mucus, and demucillant relieves irritation of the mucous membrane, properties of mullein, it has been extensively used by herbalists to help remedy these issues, and it is being used in numerous commercial products. This month we'll be creating an amazing Mullein Chest Rub that will have the soothing and cooling ability similar to Vicks Vapor Rub, with an awesome medicinal benefits of mullein. This is definitely a project that you will find widely useful and will help treat one of the most common issues that we face. In addition, you will create a great mullein tincture to further help combat these issues. Simply put, mullein is a tremendous medicinal herb that any aspiring herbalist needs to know how to use, so let's get started. The science-backed benefits. Lab studies have shown that mullein leaf has antibacterial properties in both gram-positive and gram-negative bacteria, and antiviral activity against influenza A and herpes. Studies have shown statistically significant improvement of earaches using eardrops containing mullein. The test tube research, mullein has been found to fight flu-causing viruses, and lab tests have also found that mullein will kill certain types of bacteria, including staph infections and E. coli. Traditional herbal uses. Dating back to the Greek physician Dioscorides, more than 2,000 years ago, mullein has had an extensive use as both a medicinal herb and a natural toilet paper. Treatments of using mullein have primarily been focused on its decongestant properties and ability to soothe inflammation. For this reason, most usage has been for coughs, bronchitis, asthma, other respiratory ailments, sinus infections, allergies, and sore throats. It is also commonly used for earaches in the middle ear infection. Lesser uses have included urinary tract issues, incontinence, and wound care and diarrhea. Potential risks. This is an important thing to look at with any herb that you're thinking about using. There are no major side effects from mullein, but some people may have contact dermatitis, which may cause itching and rash. That's usually if you're a little bit allergic to the hairs on there. Most people are not, but some people are. Likewise, it is not recommended for children under the age of 12 due to the risk at younger ages for an allergic reaction. Now remember I said mullein is good for children earlier. So prepare it in a way like in a tea, or if you're making a oxymol or something like that, that you would strain out all those hairs after you make it. And just strain it really well and you shouldn't have any problems. While mullein is considered very safe, always take precautions and speak to your healthcare provider if you're pregnant or breastfeeding. Mullein is not suitable for people with jaundice, hepatitis, or other liver issues. The last thing we have to do is we're going to finish up these, and so we've got 2.5 hours. So let me think about what I'm going to do, but I'm going to stop here and then come back. Okay, we're back and our oils are ready. They've been in here for 3 hours now. I will tell you that a lot of the stuff that I make, if I use this method, I'll often do it for 24 hours to really infuse those oils really well. You can turn it off at night if you want to because of the potential fire risk and that kind of thing. But I do think that the folk method is the very best, keeping it in a cool, dark place for 4 to 6 months, shaking it. I just think putting your energy into your medicines always makes them better. Guess I shouldn't call them medicines. Into your products. Have to be careful what I say, right? So first I'm going to do the ear drops. This is actually the sage tea from the sage video. And it's so good. I'm so glad I found a sage tea that I could drink for menopause symptoms that I can handle with the lemon, and the lemon zest makes it so good. If you haven't watched that video, it'll be coming out next. So look for the sage video in a week. So first we're going to take the ear drops. Okay, so this is for our ear drops. And remember that probably the very best ear drops that we could make would be made out of the flowers, because the flowers actually have the constituent in it that makes it really good for eardrops. We just want to squeeze out all that we can. That last little bit, that's all the good stuff. I like doing it this way and then putting it into the bottles. It's a little bit easier. I'll show you with a bag next one. These are going to be great eardrops. It's got the St. John's wort in it and the garlic in it. So it's going to be amazing. Okay, so now we need a funnel. I have labeled 2 bottles here. Hopefully that's enough. Use this little funnel. Get rid of this. Here we go. Next year, I'm going to make it with the flowers. I'm going to fill it quite to the top because I'm not sure there's quite enough to fill both bottles. Can always go back. Oh, good. Looks like there's enough to fill them both up. Learn not to fill them too high. Hopefully that's not too high. Okay. There's just a little bit left. I'm not going to put that into anything. Okay, put our lids on them. And there's our amazing eardrops. Okay, so we made our tea, our eardrops, the tincture that's in getting ready, and now the last thing we're making today is the chest rub. And we're going to do this with a double broiler. So with the double broiler, you just want to put water in the bottom. You want to make sure that the water does not touch the bottom of the bowl. If you don't have a double broiler like this, you can actually use a glass bowl on the top. So I'm going to turn this on. It has 1 through 5, and I think at about 2 is about right. So we'll check that. You want that water to simmer, not boil. So we have our tins ready. This one I've labeled for the extras. And this one's all ready as well. So it says in the top portion of a double broiler, add 1.6 ounce of infused mullein oil and the provided teaspoon of beeswax. For a softer mixture, you can add a little bit less beeswax. And we're going to use the whole amount that they gave us because they've measured out the ounces for us. So the first thing we need to do is to strain it. I'm going to use this bag to strain. Put this up here a little bit so you can see. And we're just going to pour it into the bag. So bags can be a nice way to do this as well. Remember, you want to get as much of those herbs in there as you can so you can squeeze out as much as you can. And I've learned, although I do wash my hands after this, that it's really nice to just kind of rub this all over your skin and get the amazing benefits of the oil and the herb. Squeeze out every last drop. Okay, so now we're going to pour this in here. The water's starting to get hot. And we'll put our beeswax in here. And I tend to like a little bit stiffer of a rub, so this doesn't have as much beeswax as some of the recipes that are called for in our ointments or salves, because we're going to be rubbing this on the chest, so you want it a little bit thinner to cover that chest really well. So in the recipe it says once it's heated, once the wax is melted in the bottom, to remove it from the heat and let it cool down a little bit to add the essential oils. But in my naturopath class, my instructors have kind of taught me that you can put the oils into the tins and it will incorporate as it goes in there. And that way you don't have to worry quite as much about it being hot. Let it cool down just a little bit and then you can go ahead and pour it in there. So it says that we're going to use 30 drops eucalyptus, 10 of peppermint, and 2 of white camphor. I've noticed that sometimes these are not the best. That's the peppermint. There's the white camphor. Sometimes they're not the best at coming out. I love the essential oils, so I am gonna do 2 in each tin instead of 1. See, it's just kind of too hard with that on. So we're gonna be really careful and try to do just 2 drops. 2. Okay. So there was about 4 drops in there because we only needed 2 drops. Then, let's see, this is our eucalyptus. So we're going to do 30 drops of eucalyptus. So let's see if it'll come out. No. Makes it a little bit harder to do without the cap, but I'm going to start with 15. 4, 5, 6. So it looks like this one's going to have a little bit less. And then for our peppermint, so I'm going to start with 5 in this one in case there's less. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, I just kind of divided it between the two. I don't mind these being strong. And of course, with your recipes, you can add more or less essential oils. I just really love the essential oils. So now those are all set up and ready to go. Looks like our stuff is just starting to get warm. Okay, so the wax has melted. And we're ready to pour it into our tins. Turn this off, let it cool down just a little bit. We'll start with this tin. Let it cool down just a little bit. I'm gonna go grab the spatula and get as much of this out as I can. Usually there's a little bit more in the second one. I did fill the tin pretty full. Usually I get about double this on the second one. So then we're just gonna let them cool down. I'll clean up a bit while they're cooling down. So with Mullein today, we made our ear drops. We've got the tincture that's going to be sitting in a cool, dark place. We did the root tincture for lower back pain. That was from the sage video. We made our tea, and then we've made our ointments here. They're still just a little bit, haven't quite set yet, but they will continue to sit. So tell me something you learned about Mullein that you didn't know before you started watching this video. Thanks so much for hanging out with me and learning about a new herb. We do 2 herbal videos a week, and then a crystal video and a woven time, which is a little bit of earth magic. So join us again for the next video, which will be on sage. Lots of amazing things that sage does. Don't click off yet. Make sure that you've hit that subscribe and that bell if you haven't already. And all of you, please give this video a thumbs up. And remember, come back often to the channel where you can say, Karma's my friend. Bye, y'all.